Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Excellent. So it's just on the hour, and I think we started recording, so we'll get right away with the webinar. I know people are still joining in, and we'll have more participants. So welcome everyone to the August 2018 Fresh School Health and Nutrition webinar. My name is Mohini Venkatesh, and I'm from Save the Children. The Fresh webinars are a series of monthly presentations on school health and development in low and middle income context, jointly organized by Fresh partners. This month, we're commemorating International Youth Day, and the theme for this year is Safe Spaces for Youth. Youth need spaces where they can come together and engage in activities related to their needs, including sports and physical activity. We have 3 speakers from Save the Children, including Jeannie Long, who will be the discussant and introduce the speakers. Jeannie, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. This morning we are going to have a very, very short introduction to physical activity in schools. Then we will hear about Niños y Niñas Más Felices, a program that recently started in El Salvador, RECESES and Movement, a strategy in Bolivia, as well as the Healthy Choices program, which is part of Save the Children's U.S. program. I'd like to introduce our speakers this morning. First speaker from El Salvador is Margarita Franco. She's the Program Development and Quality Director at Save the Children International in El Salvador. She has over 18 years of experience in design, implementation, and evaluation of programs. Her work experience covers both the public and private sector in positions like teacher, school principal, director of the education department, and director of the educational research department at the university level. Then from Bolivia, we'll have Augusto Costas, who will be presenting on behalf of Alfredo Juaniquina. Augusto Costas is a longtime veteran of Save the Children, moving from manager in Oruro, Bolivia, to becoming the education director and supporting various efforts across the past 24 years. Augusto has a bachelor's degree in social communication and business and an MBA, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in education through the Atlantic International University in Honolulu, Hawaii. Alfredo Juaniquina is the National Coordinator of School Health and Nutrition Programs for Save the Children International Bolivia. Since 2007, Alfredo has directed multiple school health programs across 23 municipalities in the departments of Oruro, La Paz, and El Beni. He's an auxiliary technician in nursing and a graduate in business administration with extensive experience working with grassroots community organizations and local government. In addition, he's currently an advisor of the original Ayus of the Marca del Chorro, an indigenous native people located in Oruro, where he is nominated as the highest community authority there. Lastly but not least, Leslie Graham serves as the Associate Director of Health and Family Engagement on Save the Children's National Education and Health Teams for U.S. programs. Leslie supports state-based teams and local schools and communities across the U.S. with the implementation of the Healthy Choices physical activity and nutrition programs. Her role focuses on program leadership and design, curriculum development, program quality assurance, training development and delivery, and ongoing programmatic support. She obtained both her bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Kentucky. So when we talk about physical activity, we're referring to many different types of physical activity, including play, games, sports, transportation such as biking or walking, recreation, physical education, and planned exercise. There are many physical benefits of physical activity. It can lead to improved cardiorespiratory and muscular fitness, bone health, cardiovascular and metabolic markers, improved cardiovascular and metabolic markers, and reduced anxiety and depression, especially if children are getting at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity per day. Most of children's physical activity should be aerobic in nature, and they should include vigorous intensity activities that strengthen bone and muscle at least 3 times a week. I've included a couple examples of what intensity, moderate and vigorous intensity means, but obviously intensity really is responsive to how hard a person has to work to do the activity, so that can vary by age and by the person as to what is moderate and vigorous. In addition to physical activity being important for your body, it's also important for learning and development in your brain. We know that physical activity is important for visual acuity, attention and behavior in the classroom, growth and math skills, and a lot of brain development. It helps children with their motor skills to control objects like balls, and it also helps with executive function to combine different movement patterns into sequences to accomplish a specific goal. There are different types of physical activity in schools. There's physical education. There are breaks of physical activity in the classroom, and there's physical activity during recess, as well as extracurricular physical activity through individual or team sports. And today we'll talk about several of these. Ways to improve physical activity in schools are to increase the number of days or hours of physical activity. The recommendation is that children should get at least 150 minutes of physical activity or of physical education in schools, and that's about 30 minutes a day, but that should only make up half of what they're getting, which is 60 minutes total every day. You can increase the active time during physical activity, and that means having more activities that make sure that children are moving, not waiting in line to participate or standing and watching other children play, but trying to have more activities where all the children are moving as much as possible. And you can also improve teachers' training in physical activity. So now I'm going to pass it over to Margarita to talk a little bit about her Niñas y Niños Más Felices.
Thanks. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So thanks for the opportunity to share the evaluation results of our program, Niñas y Niños Más Felices, which is happier children. And let me tell you that everything started with a problem. And the problem began when, let me provide you a bit of a context. In 2016, a national census of weight and height was conducted in all basic education schools in the country. And the main finding was precisely what you have in front of you, is that 1 in every 3 children is overweight or obese in our country. And in some municipalities like San Salvador, which is the capital city, the combined obesity and overweight rate is 37.7. So almost 40% of our children in some of those municipalities are obese or suffering overweight. So this was next slide, please. So this was like a red flag, a call to action, and we took this journey. After the problem identification, which is right in the next slide, we conducted a formative research and also a desk review because we wanted to better understand the associated factors to obesity, in general to the problem that we were facing. This formative research was specifically conducted with children 9 to 15 years old, which is basically the very young adolescent population. From there, we started to work with the program design, and we focused especially on knowledge, attitudes, and practices. We wanted to promote, because of the findings we've had in the formative research, but also in the desk review. Then we started with the program implementation and along the baseline. And perhaps just around the program design, let me also tell you that children were highly involved in the program design and validation as well. So at this moment, we are in the dissemination of result stage. Let me now show you what the program looks like. And I'm very excited to show you this because this is like our baby. Next slide, please. Let me present you the Guía de la Misión. So this is basically our curriculum. Our curriculum was inspired. We wanted to create something very, fun and innovative, something that the children and also the teachers could be happy to be related to. And we were inspired by this journey that is in the Little Prince book. So we wanted to create this journey and the idea of how different worlds and dimensions and tastes and experiences are part of the same galaxy. So we created, the curriculum is comprised by 10 modules, all of them called worlds, and they are all part of the galaxy, which is in the name of the galaxy is Integral Health. And as you see in the image, there are some modules or some worlds that are connected, like the orange ones, for instance, are connected to the physical activity. The blue ones to the emotional/mental health, and the nutrition are the green ones. So next slide, please. Hello? Hello? Oh, thank you. Let me tell you now a little bit more about the physical activity component, which is what is getting us together today. So, but before that, just a side note: the name of the program, Happier Children, was selected because during the formative research, again and again, children refer to a healthy person as someone, or child as someone who is happy. So a healthy person, a non-obese, or a person who has good physical and emotional health, or is happy or happier. So we decided to use that name for the program. Next slide, please. And these are some of the principles we adopted for our physical activity model. We started with the idea that physical activity is a human right. And this is totally connected, for instance, with to the third and fourth principles. The third one says the safe and effective opportunities of physical activity should be available to all people. It doesn't matter their age or their social circumstance, or their conditions in general. And this is totally connected also to what we are commemorating today. We are talking, the theme for the day we are commemorating in this webinar is safe spaces for youth. And in countries like in El Salvador, many times children say that they don't engage with physical activity because they don't have safe spaces to do so. So this is totally connected to what we are saying at this moment, that in general, we need to truly understand what the circumstances, what the characteristics are of the population we are trying to promote physical activity with, in order to provide better and effective opportunities to physical activity. The other principle says that the health benefits of physical activity cannot be stored. So physical activity should be happening throughout all, the life. So this is important. And the last part, the last piece is the physical activity is not necessarily equal to let me see, how can I explain this better? So you can be physically active or performing, for instance, the 60 minutes of physical activity a day that the World Health Organization recommends, and still you can be, and yet you can be a sedentary person, because the rest of the day you can be just be sitting in front of a computer or in front of a TV, and that it needs to be addressed as well. So let's move to the next slide. And let me tell you about the program evaluation. So in the for the program evaluation, we just I just want to ensure that you to share with you the three main areas we wanted to promote. So or to in this case examine. Participants will be reducing the number of sedentary hours. Participants will increase the physical activity time, and in general will the number of students with a normal body mass index will be increasing. So let's move to the next slide, please, to see the results of the evaluation. There was one slide that I'm not going to be reading because it just has the general information of the evaluation. As you can see, at the end of the implementation, which lasted for 4 months, we had reduced the sedentary time from 1/3 of the day to 1/5 of the day. And the main reduction was being experienced by girls in the 3rd grade. In the next slide, what you can see is we needed to provide opportunities for children to engage with physical activity. So we wanted the schools, especially the schools, to adopt activity programs or directed games to integrate that into their daily activities. So what you can see is that at the beginning of the program, 0% of the schools had that type of programs, and at the end of the program implementation, many more schools were having at least the 3 minimum activities that we had suggested. But the other schools, you can see, they were also on their way to adopt the programs. Next slide, please. And finally, this is the slide related to the body mass index. And as you can see, the prevalence of the overweight and obesity in general was decreased. In average, a 2.2%. Yes. But you can see I selected this slide because we also found a problem. As you can see, the girls from 5th grade, instead of decreasing the overweight and obesity rate, increased. So these are the main findings in our evaluation program, and I'll be happy to answer any other question or comment later on. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Margarita, and we would like to move to Augusto and Alfredo, please. Alfredo?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us to present this initiative. It's a happy time for us to share the things that we are doing here in Bolivia. As you can see, we are going to talk about the RECESES in movement. That is an important part of our initiative in the school health and nutrition program in Bolivia. The problems that we have in Bolivia as a context for you is that the school-age children have a lot of many of varied health problems, like anemia, parasitosis, respiratory infections, malnutrition, bad health habits, nutrition and hygiene, overweight, and obesity. Some statistics for you. In Bolivia, 3 of 10 children are overweight and obese. And in El Alto, because this initiative works in El Alto municipality, is 4,200 meters sea level, 6 of 10 adult women are overweight. That is important because we start thinking about in our program what we can do about this problem that we have. Next slide, please. Some aspects that contribute to the problem, as you know, and I think we can share these problems in other countries as well. The supply, we say, or unhealthy food products in the market, you know, all the junk products that we have, family factors and level of education, genetic and environmental determinants, lifestyle characterized by lack of physical activity, and change in food patterns and the influence of the environment. These problems are around all the school-age children. Next slide, please. Our program, as I was saying, that we are in a school health and nutrition program in Bolivia. That's the name of the program, and we have 4 results to work in that. You can see the number 1 is access to health and nutrition services, and you see in the draws we have healthy RECESES, we have some things related to protection, the first aid box, and the physical activities. And the second one, we have access to wash, safe water, proper use of the baths and hand hygiene, and solid waste management. Next slide, please. Next. Okay, this is next. Thank you. Thank you. This is the third one, and the third one is very important component because you can see a true training that is the focus of our work in knowledge, attitudes, and practices. We have the healthy clubs or healthy brigades. It depends of the school. They can call clubs or brigades, and the health commissions. That's the first one. Healthy clubs and brigades are the participants are children, and the second one is the principal, teachers, and parents that are part of the health commissions in the school. And the fourth is the advocacy for and sustainability that generates a support from municipalities. The connection with municipalities here in Bolivia is very, very strong. We work very hard to have the municipality inside of the all the programs, and we put for you a drawing to show that connection. Next, please. Then this is the program description, the links between the strategies. First of all, I was saying that we work in training, and this training goes over all the schools and the community. The community, we say, all related to the schools. And the part that we use is one thing that is inside of the law, education law here in Bolivia, Abelino Signani, Elizardo Pérez, that they call Proyecto Sociocomunitario Productivo. That means a school social productive project. Inside of that PSP, we work all the things related, because the PSP is the working productive things in the school, but linked to the community. And then we have the healthy brigades, the healthy RECESES, we have the health commissions, the healthy kiosks. I don't know the word in English, but I think kiosco we say in Spanish. and the place that you sell all the things inside the school and outside the school, that is very important. And you can see the recess in movement too. That are all the activities that we are doing next to this PSP social productive project. That is the way that we are working in the country. Next, please. The objective, the RECESES movement, is decrease child sedentary lifestyles. As you can hear, Margarita was saying the same. We have very big problems related to overweight and obesity in our country, and the numbers are increasing year by year. Then we want to decrease that. And to decrease that, we try to work related to generate some physical movement in the schools in a organized manner, in the way that children not only are sitting in their bench and other places that they have in the school, but they can just interact between them and with others ages. You are going to see some photos that are very interesting about the RECESES movement in the country. Next, please. And this is, we want to show you with Alfredo how to implement this, because we think that to share this in this important day, Safe Spaces for Youth, we are commemorating this, but we think that we need to share how to implement this. The first step to implement this is we need to organize the commission. The second is train the educative community and all related people with that. The three is declare at least one day of the class week for the RECESES movement. The four is the school brigade is organized to support the activity. You are going to see in the photos in the other part of the presentation that this is not only a activity by the adult people, it's a children activity. And the brigades, clubs and brigades in the school are very important for this. The fifth, the Health Commission, with the support of the school board and director, configures the courtyard. This is important because it's an organized way to have the RECESES movement. Then the school need to organize, and they are going to say, for example, hula-hulas are going to go in that part of the courtyard. And the other plays and games that we have, they are going to be over there. Then six, a day before they announce the activities. 7, the day of the recess, all participate with joy and desire to have fun, because it's very fun. I was with Alfredo in many of these activities. It's very, very funny. And 8, on the day of the recess, we all promote safe water consumption and hands hygiene. You know, this is part of the program. It's not just one thing outside. It's part of the program, and when we are in the recess, we are promoting other things related to the school health and nutrition program. Next slide, please. The things that we are implementing is important to share with you, that we propose games that everyone knows. Then we try to support the schools with materials that they need to the RECESES movement. Not all, but some of that. For example, we support the schools with individual ropes for jumping, patapatas, liga, hula-hulas, and paint colors. That's the things that we support. But the school have a lot of games and plays that they have their own materials related to the context. Next slide, please. And the proposed messages, I have only 5 minutes more. Then the proposed messages that we work together with the RECESES movement is: don't forget to motivate others to consume safe water. Remember They are 4 to 6 classes a day, reducing time in front of the TV to less than 1 hour a day. Remember, less TV, more action. Wash your hands and after playing and things like that. Next, please. From here, we are going to see some photos. For example, this is a photo of the brigades organizing the map of the courtyard. I was telling you that the courtyard is very well organized, and the children organize that, and they go out of the classrooms and start playing and doing games, but in an organized manner. Next, please. This is jumping. You know, jump. We say, when you go to the schools to the recess, I can tell you, they invite you as an adult to jump with them. It's too hard for us, but very interesting activity. Next, please. And this is the hula hula, and we say the liga. I don't know how to say in English that, but it's very common play, a game here in the schools. And you know, in the past, this was a play for only women. But you can go now in the schools, and boys are playing too, that kind of games that we think that it was part of the woman plays only. Next, please. You know, you can see the traditional games, tuncuna, and other plays that they are organized in the courtyard. Next, please. That's the game, hula hula, and other plays that they just decide to have. The boys and the schools, the brigades, and just invent some plays. Next, please. And this is interesting because in one school in the Beni is a tropical department in Bolivia, they just decided to have Zumba. I think you know Zumba, and Zumba is a very dynamic music, and all day dancing, and some of the children leads. In this case, it's a boy that leads the Zumba music. Another, please, the next. And this other, that's the tuncuna with the wheels. That is very common, the wheels. We saw it 2 days ago with a visit. They are playing with that. In the photo, the teacher is playing too, because children invite you to participate. Next, please. And not all the plays that we have are related to movement. Some children don't want to move, but they are outside and they put the neurons, we say, in motion. They are playing chess. Next, please. Other games. This is another of my favorite games, says Rodrigo. And other plays that they just think about it and organize with the brigades in the school. Next, please. And this is some of the results that we have. I'm sorry, it's in Spanish. I'm going to finish with this. The yellow one is the baseline, and the green ones are the final evaluation. As you can see in these graphics, you are going to see that the time of the movement, the time that they have recess in movement, is increasing in the schools in an organized manner. Next, please. Again, some other results comparing baselines and final evaluation that we have. Next, please. And the lesson learned. There are no recipes for recessive movement. You need to motivate. Really, you need to motivate. It's cheaper. It's very, very cheaper to do that, because you give a children a liga or a rope, and they are going to have a lot of games. Then they are going to think about activities like rhythmic gymnastics, old games, traditional games. All this works. All is good in the RECESES movement in this initiative. Next, please. Good practices is working with PTAs, the boarding of the parents boarding, because a lot of parents are always in touch with the schools and see what is happening, and all of them participates in the place or contribute with the needs of materials with the place. And another good practice is we involve the authorities. The district office can visit and see what we are doing in the schools. And the next, please. I'm just finishing. And the challenges. We have a very, very huge challenge in the country because of the Minister of Education and Minister of Health doesn't take ownership of these strategies. They are very common now in the schools, but we have big problems in the country because they think and tell everybody that the things that the Minister of Education didn't say to you is not good to do it. But all the schools have RECESES movement now, and I can tell you in El Alto is all the schools that have, because it's very, very good for them and for children. Next, please. And we share with the group to finish a success story that you can have it. The Jeannie and Mohini have the success story that is related to a teacher that with the RECESES movement, they motivate children to stay in school, to stay and to be more active, more dynamic, because we have a lot of problems related to food and nutrition in our country, and then it's very good to read for you. Thank you very much. Was a really good time and a pleasure to share with you our initiative, RECESES Movement in the School Health and Nutrition Program in Bolivia.
Thank you, Augusto, and don't leave us yet, because we'll have a question and answer session at the end. I'm sure people want to know more. And I know I was particularly glad to see the link between drinking safe water and physical activity in this presentation. So thank you. Leslie, on to you.
Thank you, Jeannie. I'm happy to be presenting today in honor of International Youth Day and to share about our Healthy Choices program in the U.S. So just to get us started, on the next slide, we'll quickly review the status of children's health in the U.S. And I think this is pretty common that you've seen within the other countries that have presented today. But basically, we have an obesity epidemic across America. Nearly 1 in 3 youth are overweight or obese, and we know that the lack of physical activity contributes to this epidemic. Approximately 13.7 million children are classified as obese, and due to a lot of factors such as sedentary lifestyles and screen time, only 21.6% of our children attain the recommended 60 minutes or more of moderate to vigorous physical activity at least 5 days per week. Next slide. Furthermore, where we work in the U.S. is focused in rural America. And so where we specialize, not only are children faced with these common challenges that occur across the country, we also have additional economic barriers. So low resource communities, geographically isolated areas, and an ever-growing disparity gap. So our children and families are facing additional barriers, additional challenges that put our children at an even higher health risk. Next slide. So in the United States, Save the Children provides a variety of programs. We offer early childhood programs, disaster preparedness and response, community mobilization, And specifically, our health work fits in our school-age programs. So we offer school-age programs in school during the school day as far as supplemental literacy programs, as well as during after school and summer. And our overarching goal is around helping children in rural communities become socially, emotionally, and cognitively ready to enter kindergarten and achieve proficiency in math and reading. We have lots of different program components within our school-age work, and you'll notice that physical activity and nutrition is integrated into this approach. So we focus on literacy, family engagement, math, and then our Healthy Choices program, which addresses physical activity and nutrition. So we've really positioned our health work as a support to overall learning outcomes. Next slide. As Jeannie mentioned earlier, the research is pretty clear in telling us that healthier students are better learners. So if we are focusing on third grade reading proficiency, math proficiency, and school readiness, we know that a child's health has an important influence on those learning outcomes. Students who are physically active tend to have better grades, improved school attendance, improved cognitive performance, and on-task behavior. And we know that higher levels of physical activity and fitness are associated with improved concentration and memory and attentiveness. I really like the image here on the screen that helps to illustrate this. This is from Dr. Chuck Hillman's research out of the University of Illinois. And it illustrates a brain after sitting quietly. On the left, you see a lot of blue and green. And then on the right, after just a 20-minute walk, so you see those neurons firing. You see lots of red and yellow, which is showing that increased brain activity. So this really positions us, or helps to underscore why we position this work as a support to our learning outcomes. On the next slide, we will take a look at how this program is implemented, just for some additional context. So Healthy Choices is implemented across 10 states in more than 120 public schools, reaching over 14,000 children. And Healthy Choices has three components focused on healthy snacks being provided to children each day, nutrition education, and what we're focusing on today, physical activity. So we are providing increased opportunities for children to engage in physical activity, and specifically focusing on 30 minutes of daily moderate to vigorous physical activity during the after-school setting and during the summer setting. And we utilize a research-based curriculum. It is called CATCH, which stands for Coordinated Approach to Child Health, and it was developed out of the University of Texas. And it helps to encourage that MVPA, and also exposes children to a variety of fun and engaging activities that are age-appropriate, non-elimination, non-competitive, and they are inclusive of all children. Next slide. So now we'll move into the specific content that we'll be focusing on today, now that we know a little bit more of context about Healthy Choices. And we're going to specifically take a look at our monitoring and evaluation approach, the assessment tools that we utilize, as well as our indicators and results, and then the limitations and lessons learned, and how that has really shaped our direction of where we're going with program evaluation.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt you, Leslie, but if you are listening on the phone, can you please make sure to mute your line? Thank you. Leslie, I lost you for a second. Are you still there?
She's muted.
Oops.
Leslie needs to unmute herself. I'm not able to do that though.
Leslie, I think you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
You can unmute her.
Leslie, can you try talking again?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Yes, we can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay, I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So if you could go back to the previous slide. Okay, so the specific physical activity tool that we use in our programs historically has been the PACER assessment. So this stands for Progressive Aerobic Cardiovascular Endurance Run. And this is one of 3 field tests developed through FitnessGram by the Cooper Institute that assesses aerobic capacity. It has been endorsed by the Presidential Youth Fitness Program and has criterion reference standards based on levels of fitness for good health. It measures aerobic capacity, which basically is an indicator of overall health and fitness and shows how the different systems in the body, the respiratory system, cardiovascular and muscular systems, can take in and transport oxygen during exercise. So good levels of aerobic capacity have been shown to reduce the risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, and other health issues. And we know that 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each day can improve one's aerobic capacity. Next slide. So now we'll talk a little bit about how to administer the assessment. Staff training is definitely important. So this is something that we provide to our Healthy Choices coordinators as far as how to administer the assessment, the materials that are needed, the space, the equipment, just kind of what the plan is for administering the assessment. And there are minimal materials required. So the FitnessGram Administration Manual has a whole chapter on the PACER assessment, specifically focused on aerobic capacity. There's also a CD that goes along with the manual that helps to kind of keep those beeps or the cadence with the music that the children are setting their pace to. You need cones, score sheets, pencils, and the Healthy Fitness Zone charts, which I will show you here in just a little bit. Additionally, you can use the FitnessGram software, which has some additional reporting capabilities, which is a nice option for some additional reports for parents and additional information about the results. This assessment is designed for our program participants, specifically ages 10 and older. This assessment is only scientifically valid for that age range. So younger children do not participate in the PACER assessment. And we deliver it 3 times a year, pre, mid, and post, and we analyze data across the school year. So pre to post, and the mid test serves as really just a kind of check-in for progress and goal setting. We do ask our children to set goals for themselves towards the healthy fitness zone, as well as just focusing on improvement throughout the year. Next slide. So the objectives of PACER, just to give you a little visual of how this test runs, basically the children are running back and forth across a specified space, whether it's 15 meters or 20-meter distance, at a pace that gets faster and faster as the test progresses. So they're actually listening to beeps on the CD or music on the CD, and they're trying to keep up their pace. Now, the overarching goal is to run the minimum number of laps to reach the healthy fitness zone. And this is a kind of optimal standard based on the child's gender and age. And then additionally, we'd want to increase the number of laps that are completed during each testing period. Next slide. The Healthy Fitness Zone standards are basically the categories for the results or the scores that the children achieve after completing this assessment. So the Healthy Fitness Zone is the optimal fitness goal. So students that achieve a score within this category are considered to have sufficient fitness for overall good health. The next category is called needs improvement. So this shows that there is a potential for future health risks. So it's a possible risk, but increased activity and a healthy diet could help to delay this risk. And then the most concerning category would be needs improvement health risk, which indicates that there is a more probable risk for future health problems for this child. And it would be important to have increased activity and healthy eating as a more urgent response to receiving these results. Next slide. So So this shows you just some of the resources that go along with the PACER assessment. On the left, you see individual score sheets. So this helps to track the laps that the children complete during the testing phase. And then on the right, you see the goal setting chart, which outlines the healthy fitness zone standards for the children based on their age and grade. So you would see that at 15-meter distance, a 10-year-old boy would need to complete 21 laps. So this helps to kind of guide the children and set their goals based on the healthy fitness zone. Next slide shows our indicators and results. So we look at specifically percent of regularly participating children, so those that come consistently to the program 55 days or more, who demonstrate growth in aerobic capacity. So you see to the right there, we've grown over the years, starting with 61% and steadily increasing to our last year's results at 78% of children achieving demonstrated growth in aerobic capacity. The second set of indicators looks at target children, and these are children who are not in the healthy fitness zone at the start of the school year or at the pre-test, who demonstrate growth. So this is a group of children that are at an increased health risk, but we're still seeing strong results here. So 65% growing across this past several years to last year, 84% of children increasing their aerobic capacity throughout the course of the year. And while we've achieved some pretty strong results, we do have several limitations that we need to recognize with this assessment and with our results. Next slide. So improvement in aerobic capacity over the course of the program year was attainable for a majority of the participants. As you saw on the screen before, 70 to 80% of program participants achieved growth. However, many of our program participants' fitness levels fell outside of the healthy fitness zone, which really is indicative of the larger health issue across the United States, and furthermore, the specific population of children that we are working with. Children's testing experiences also varied. Some children had a very positive experience, and for others, it was really challenging to complete the assessment. Consistent program participation was also a challenge for some of our schools who didn't have consistent attendance, and therefore we didn't have complete data for children with a pre and a post test. And restricting the testing to 10 years old and older based on the assessment standards significantly limits the sample size, especially when our target audience for programming is kindergarten through 6th grade. So we have a pretty small sample size for this assessment. And testing does not account for different influential factors such as genetics, BMI, activity levels outside of the program, and other health conditions. Additionally, we would have loved to be able to provide additional guidance and information to parents that would be a little bit more beneficial. So taking all this in consideration, on the next slide, you'll see that we in Save the Children US are shifting our Healthy Choices evaluation plans from the child level assessment data to more of a program level Healthy Choices evaluation. This helps us to really simplify the data collection processes and as part of a larger data audit. As we look across our program components and all the data that's collected, we really needed to look at what is most useful and beneficial for our illustrating program impact. This also helps to reduce the staff time for data management and analysis, both at the school level and within Save the Children internally. And this, while there are some benefits to this, sorry, there's some background noise. Okay, while there are some benefits to this, there are also some cons or challenges. So making this shift does lack child level impact data and reduces our caliber of results to share with potential funders. But as we know, there really is a balance to determine what the best approach for evaluation is. This approach does allow us to monitor the program model to ensure fidelity and better aligns with our overarching strategy and program goals around positioning health as a support to literacy outcomes. And we're really just honing in on our robust literacy results. There are some alternative evaluation methods that you could consider as you are thinking about evaluation for your own program. So the SOFIT is basically a fitness observation. It takes a little bit more training time, but you're actually observing
actual movement or activity time. You could look at minutes of physical activity, as well as kind of a higher level of evaluation, linking child participation to academic outcomes, absenteeism, and test scores. On the next slide, you will see references and resources. So there's always a lot to consider when we talk about monitoring and evaluation of our health programs. So here are some resources that might be helpful to everyone. So some information about FitnessGram, SoFit, the Learning Connection from Action for Healthy Kids, as well as the HEPA standards that help to guide program design. And you'll also see my contact information there. If you have additional questions or need additional resources, please reach out to me. And thank you so much for having me present today.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for everyone who has participated this morning. We only have 4 minutes because we need to leave 1 minute to announce the next webinar. I'd invite first come, first serve to people to write a question if you have one in the chat box. In the meantime, I wanted to ask, I'll ask a question until someone else does. I was wondering if, Margarita, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about how you think the physical activity that's happening in schools might be related to or improving other components of social or mental health. Since I know a little bit about the project, I know you're looking at health more holistically, and I was wondering if you're measuring any of that at all, or if you've thought about it.
Thanks, Jeannie. And yes, what we found in the evaluation, both in the evaluation, but also at the beginning in the formative research, is that the connection between the physical activity and the emotional. Hello?
I can still hear you.
Okay, and the emotional health and of course the nutrition is, I mean, those components are totally connected. And even in some other areas are completely connected to this. For instance, what you saw in the final slide, the evaluation around the body mass index. When we analyzed the data in order to understand why the girls in the 5th grade were having that increase in the overweight and obesity rate instead of decreasing, we found that the menstruation and other puberty related issues are also connected to the lack of physical movement, to some other areas. So yes, definitely there is a connection. And to just the last piece of information that I can tell you around this is the physical movement. The children report that the physical movement was the easiest part to adopt in terms of all the practices and knowledge and attitudes. But the emotional piece and the nutrition one were, you know, something that they had to work harder on that.
That's really interesting. So it sounds like physical activity could be a small but significant win. Doug McCall has put a question in the chat box. He says, I really like the focus on sedentary behaviors in El Salvador and Bolivia presentation. Research is showing that sedentary time, especially TV time, is a higher risk than physical inactivity for overweight. And he lists some different materials. Thank you, Doug. In 1 minute, I'm going to ask Augusto. You mentioned that parents and teachers were very, very important to the success of your program, and I was wondering if you could give us one example of how you motivated parents and teachers to adopt this project.
In our case, parents just are related to the schools. We say the educative community, you know, and they are related, and they came to the schools with the children, And when they decide, an example in some schools, when they decide to have a day of the recess movement, some schools, as was saying, is 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or so, and then they ask parents to be present with children and participate in the activities. In other schools, the parents are not. It depends on the neighborhood and the zone. But I can say that the example is one school that we visit 2 weeks ago, that all the schools have the courtyard very organized, and the children were doing activities, and parents were there, and parents were participating, jumping rope and wheels, and doing a lot of things. And one thing is important to say, that when we have a recessive movement, they don't work only in the recess. They are just explaining how to wash hands, how to brush teeth, and the garbage in the school. You know, it's like a very integral, the activity, because recessive movement is not a program. It's just an initiative, and we have a lot of initiatives that the school just are doing.
Thank you, Augusto. We have to make one last announcement for the next webinar meeting. Thank you, Jeannie, and thank you, our speakers today. It's an excellent session of practical experiences. In September, the FRESH webinars will be commemorating World Sight Day. And to speak on the topic, we have participants from Sight Savers who will be talking about the importance of school eye health, the concept of integrated field health. And they'll be sharing findings of a cost analysis done in Cambodia and Ghana, which talks about how you can scale up school-based vision screening. So tune in for that, and we'll be sharing the recording from today and all the other resources that were shared by our speakers on schools and health and on other websites. Look out for that. Thank you, everyone.